How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me with another math lesson with Mr. Whitford. Today we're going to continue to work on our Unit 7 equations, expressions, and we're going to talk about lesson 7.10. Now we're going to combine some of the content we covered in Unit 4 regarding geometry stuff, and we're going to combine it into solving two-step equations. So let's look at 7.10 with me. If you have the packet, please look on. If you have, if you do want to look on online, that's fine as well. Here we go. We have solving for angles. So we're going to end up solving for angles using two-step equations. But before we do so, I do need to refresh you on types of angles. So take a moment to pause the video and complete the bell work. Awesome. All right, so what we have here is this. So we're asked to solve for angles. Now, before we go to solve for angles, we have to review certain types of angles. So I've given you three scenarios, right? The first one, if we were to label this, let's do a little bit of labeling here. Let's say that this one's A, B, and C, okay? There are words down here at the bottom, right? Supplementary, vertical, and complementary. And I want to know what is A, what is B, and what is C. So what kind of angles do you think A is? If you said that it was supplementary, you are right. They are supplementary angles, and we'll talk about those in a second. For B, if you mentioned that this was complementary, you are right. And for C, if you mentioned that this was vertical angles, then you would have got them all right. Now, why are they what they are? Recap, supplementary angles are two angles that when added together equal 180. That's why you see these two angles, angle A and angle B, they kind of make this straight line because a straight line or a straight angle is 180 degrees. And option B here, you'll see that there is a 90-degree angle here. And that's kind of indicating that two angles add together to equal 90. So you have a 30-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. When combined together, they give you 90. That's called complementary angles. And if you notice in C, we have two angles that are opposite of one another in some sense. They're called vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. I believe we mentioned that in the past as well. Now, why is this relevant? As we go to solve two-step equations today, we're going to play around with geometry, but you're going to first need to recognize what kind of angles do we have here? Do we have complementary? Do we have supplementary? Do we have vertical? If that's the case, it's going to determine whether or not you set it equal to 180, whether you set it equal to 90, or whether you set it equal to each other. Okay? Once again, understanding that two angles added together that equal 180 make a straight line, that's supplementary. Understanding that two angles that make a right angle is called complementary. And two angles that are opposite of one another when two lines cross are called vertical angles, and they are always going to be the same measurement. Let's dive in. Let's look at the modeling so we can get some practice on what we're doing today. There is a vocabulary section here that will help you to, once again, remind you of what supplementary, vertical, and complementary are. But let's look at the modeling. I'm going to do two problems for you here. Notice that A is giving me a set of angles here, and B is giving me a set of angles that I am missing a pair from above, right? I want you to know that, that I'm missing complementary angles, which means that there are no right angles here. There is no, but in case you see a right angle pair, which I can quickly fast forward just to give you help. Number one is complementary. It's telling you that those two angles there need to add together to give you a 90-degree angle. Now, the good news is for number one, to kind of get you warmed up, it's not a two-step equation, it's a one-step equation, but it still should be able to help you, okay? Let's look at A and B of the modeling. Now, A, I have to first identify what kind of angles I have here, right? What kind of angles do you think these are? If you are saying vertical angles, then you are correct. They are vertical angles because they are across from one another, okay? According to the picture above and according to the definition, we know vertical angles are the same. What does that mean? That means that 2x plus 25, which is the angle measurement of one of them, has to be equal to the opposite one, which in this case is 50. So these have to be equal to one another. Notice we have a two-step equation. Okay? Notice we have a two-step equation. If you look at B on the other hand, right, I'm given supplementary angles. Now, how do I know these are supplementary angles? Because they form this straight line, right? This straight line here. And that straight line is an indicator that this makes 180 degrees, right? It adds up to equal 180 degrees, which is an important fact for us to know and for us to be able to understand, okay? Give me 1 second. Let me just stop sharing. I'll reshare once. So if you see that straight line there that's being formed, that tells you that these two angles add up to equal a supplementary pair, which is 180 degrees. So what I should do here then is say, okay, well, 60 plus 5x plus 5 equals 180, right? First thing I really want you guys to do is identify the type of angle. If they're vertical angles, then they need to be the same. Set them equal to each other. If they're supplementary, add the two angles together, 60 and 5x plus 5, and set them equal to 180. If they're complementary, add the two angles together equal to 90. All right? Let's first finish off the vertical. Now, once you have it set up, once you have your equation set up, there's really nothing more to do except solve for x, solve for the variable. So I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. I'm going to say, okay, what's happening to x? First it's being multiplied by 2, and then it's being adding 25. So I need to first get rid of the adding 25. Remember, we're doing it in reverse inverse operations as well. So we end up getting 2x is equal to 25. Then I want to divide both sides by 2 because I see I'm multiplying by 2 here. So I want to divide by 2. When I do that, I get x is equal to 12.5. Of course, you want to make sure you get into the habit of going back in and checking your answer. I know, ladies and gentlemen, you're like, but we did that all the time. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with it. 2 times 12.5 plus 25, is this equal to 50? Is 25 plus 25 equal to 50? The answer is yes, 50 is equal to 50. That makes this the right answer, okay? For the second one here for B, we already identified they're supplementary. We see they have a nice straight line here, which means that that has to be 180 degrees, right? I need to add these two up together to equal that 180. But before I do so, I have to first talk about something called like terms. Okay, I notice I have like terms here. What is a like term? Like terms are numbers or variables that have something in common that you can combine. In this case, I see a 5, I see a 60, I can combine those two. So on this side, I really have 5x plus 65 is equal to 180. Okay, now that I have it set up, I can then go and solve it. Drawing a line down my equal sign, taking care of the 65 first. I end up getting 5x is equal to, let's subtract this. We get a 5, we get a 1, 115. Okay. And then we end up dividing both sides by 5. And we get x is equal to 23. Okay. Awesome. And as usual, we want to make sure we go back and we check our answer as well to make sure that works. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest thing in this worksheet is make sure you identify what kind of angles you're looking at: vertical, supplementary, complementary. Then making sure you either set it equal to each other, equal to 180, or equal to 90. If there are like terms, like in this one where you need to combine, make sure you combine correctly, okay? If there was 2 x's here, and this is a side note, right? Let me write this in a different color. If there was, say there was a 3x and an x, and I need to combine them because they are like terms, this would give me 4x, okay? I know we talked about like terms in the previous lessons, but I want to reinforce it and make sure that we all are on the same page when it comes to like terms, okay? Please continue to work on the practice, work on the homework. If you have any questions at all, feel free to message me and reach out to your teacher. Thank you so much for joining me with another math lesson. Have a wonderful day.